Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of Vision China. I'm Owen Fishwick.
And I'm Hu Zhe. Today's looks into how the relationship between China is likely to develop in the future.
Its two largest economies have faced the past few years, which has provided neither. The importance of the China-US relationship goes beyond fostering a cooperative win-win relationship benefits not the whole.
Now bilateral relations have arrived at a new find common ground and work together to build a mutually beneficial relationship based on safety and trust. If it's possible, how can it be done?
So welcome to Vision China, the US relations, where we will examine. First, let's introduce guests. They Le Yu as Vice Minister
Standing committee member of the and editor-in-chief of China. Analysts in today's event, we are joined by experts and who will give their take between China and they are fellow at Yale University's Jackson Institute for Global Affairs and Morgan Stanley.
Da Wei, Senior International Security and Strategy at Tsinghua University.
David Firestein, President and CEO of the George H. W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China.
Senior Institute for Finance at Renmin University of China. Economic and Business Policy for the Mayor of London. Please welcome China's Vice Minister.
Gentlemen, friends, see you all here. First of all, I'd like to thank China Daily for providing us with for discussion. As the new year was just sworn in, it is particularly and meaningful to gather here to explore U.S. relations. Last year was challenging. Unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. relations, the worst last. Despite all this, as the Chinese proverb, every new year brings possibilities. I sincerely hope that the new year of 2020 to the world and to China-US relations. The 50th anniversary of Dr. Kissinger's historic, as well as the fair, and as the story of the tiny boy, big boy girl, those great men before, and courage relations. The challenge for the same spirit and again the memory of Professor Verger recently. The study of lifelong passion, willingness to understand in his final days, administration to adopt a rational policy toward China. He open letter, China is signed by more distinguished. It is visionaries like Professor Verger and many others who give us confidence and hope in the low point of our relations. President Joe a total of 4 times, and I guess he must have. He first visit China as a young senator with Mr. Deng. It was the two countries normalized bilateral relations. I read his inauguration speech with great interest and repeated appeal to the American people of a division. He mentioned the word this 11 times. If we the same spirit interview with NBC last year of the United States, we are sad of 400 COVID-19 lost in the World War II. Thinking about what done differently. Had the Trump administration chosen science and innovation over scale, how many lives could have been saved? Misguided China policy in the past 4 years has proven like COVID-19. From such failure, China and the United States world should treat each other as adversaries rather than fight each other and lead with power of rather than the example of congratulatory message to Biden. President and the United States should act no conflict, and a win-win cooperation. On cooperation, manage differences, relationship, sound and stable, and to countries and in the cause of world and development. Xi Jinping's vision is clear. The direction is also clear. Please the vision by quoting 4R words. The first, mutual respect for successful people-to-people and state. A difficult starting point. Repeatedly, no intention or replace. We don't even think the defined by. We keep challenging ourselves. The only thing that China asks is to respect the path, respect interests, our pursuit for a better life, and to quit its obsession with changing or splitting China would be respect and help each other succeed. The second R, so the last journey of has seen too many traps of mistrust, pitfalls of division. Enough is enough. We must act without wrong cause. A lot of repair. I American friends so steps first to create the relationship. But we have to act now. China-US relation is renewal. Are different, but our needs far outweigh our differences. We believe COVID-19 and climate change could be priority areas. The Chinese people empathize with the American We will continue COVID response, increase experience sharing on diagnostics and treatment closely with the United States of. We will also enhance with the United States to help global economic recovery. An issue essential to the future to renew cooperation with the United States. Closer results-oriented cooperation, low-carbon technologies will go a long way toward protecting Mother Earth. Responsibility. Goes, a bigger boat is meant to carry more weight. When people believe that responsibility to the person who can shoulder them. As two major countries in the world, China and the United States, for world peace and development, will have on the future of our world. Enjoyed successful cooperation like tackling the global financial crisis in 2008, Ebola in 2014, and the Paris Agreement in 2016. It has taught us that working together, we could get great things done and the world. In other words, anything is possible. The United States choose to cooperate. I want to conclude with Shakespeare. Not in the hold our destiny, but in our and the United States work together. So-called Sisyphus predestined fate for the world of China-US relations and the future of depend on what choice we make. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, please, Editor-in-Chief, deliver an opening speech.
Your Excellency Minister Lou Yicheng, distinguished guests, dear friends, welcome to Vision China for a discussion on the future of China-US relations. At a time when ties between the biggest developing countries are at a new crossroads. Relations between China and the United States have made progress, ups and downs. Thanks to endeavors of bilateral ties tremendously, and stability and prosperity of the world. We have witnessed unprecedented difficulties, and the world suffers in the face of profound change in a century. At a moment with as to heading, Xi Jinping has that we must rise to. It is precisely politicians chose to stand on the right side of that and developed a fruitful relationship, linking China and the world daily. Vision China event today on the right side requires. We ping-pong diplomacy marked a thaw that paved the way of deep people-to-people exchanges, meaningful friendship, and substantial cooperation. The right side of and building bridges, erecting walls, and digging blocking roads. History. The two share in the first place of major country relations. The China-US widely considered the most important because how they handle their relations to the rest of the world. Of major countries on the direction of relations to a large extent and future of history calls for a non-conflict confrontation, respect, and win-win cooperation. Consensus between President and President Barack Obama back in 2013. To be on the right side of history, the two start where they are most. The raging COVID-19 shows and confirmed the cases 100 million to join hands to build a global community. He visited the United Nations in 20. He delivered a together to build a community for mankind. Particularly public health crisis, aware that human sharing will and woe and the United States to share of strengthening international and global. On the right side of the two economies of the world must where they carry the most weight. These account for more than a third of global due to the global severe crisis and depression of the 1930s. Different categories in their economic and tech policies in part or put a brake on global development. Prove that and together the building before out the lines these days. It is not our common, but our common interests and common time passed by, and the world. However, we are and common hopes that President Richard Nixon spoke of are and upon. Thank you.
Giving an opening remark. Now for our first speaker, David S. Roach, Institute for Global Affairs, former chief economist, and he will be to China-U.S. relations. And now here is a short video.
China relationship outlook for that for a number of reasons. Most obviously, the world is still recovering from COVID recession of 2000. And it was the first has multiple ways back, not just of infection is far worse than the first wave. And obviously now nearly 4 years of trade conflict between China, which was and to be seen how the Biden administration around bipartisan support, marshaling the U.S. Unlikely to change. We now move to a new and our 46th president reject that. I don't want to say it was strong going to radically change and the issues of conflict that have been 3 years. There is a major opportunity to rethink the relationship, and I would encourage to actively consider a constructive approach. In the financial and I want to reiterate them in this administration to really have key issues uppermost and they're important issues that nation. So I would urge the Chinese leadership these suggestions, and if need be, a critical eye. First suggestion is the dialogue between the George W. Bush administration. We engaged in twice economic dialogues under the one meeting. It's been administration. I don't think these of anything in terms of understanding and for either nation's individual. And so I think it's long overdue for permanent dialogue. A full is all aspects of on a permanent basis. I get located in a country or officials and sharing, framing a joint policy proposal on those proposals, and then once they are agreed, implementation, science, and transparent adjudication will be issues that arise. And in all aspects of the from trade and technology to cyber people, consulate staff, and the like. And again, this the second and first most important economies in a recommendation dispute itself. And focus trade imbalances will not work. Pressures that bear fixation, solving a bilateral U.S.-China aspect of America's trade imbalances in two countries in 2019 and for 2020 a number of visits last year. A bilateral solution to a multilateral problem, economic mistake. The profusion of bilateral imbalances problems in individual nations, and that's true of China. And the fact that close to 160 bilateral trade surpluses role deficits with 102 countries. You're a country like the United States with a major shortfall of domestic saving, and you want to grow, and you run a trade deficit. So if you close down of your bilateral partners, even if it's the largest one, as China, from China to other trading partners, diverting trade in this cost, which end up taxing. So the bilateral, it does backfire. That we need to look at our context. This second recommendation the traits that underpin it and recognize workable from the purchase trajectory. The trajectory was falling well short. Instead, both and to save more, China needs to save that this profusion of a multilateral trade deficit side, which is a source of contention between the nations. Domestic saving is complicated right now because of the math to address the COVID economy. So the savings thought of immediately, but commitment is the only economics we can employ to alleviate enormous trade imbalance issue. Leg to the stool that I relationship of the economic conflict from bilateral consideration. The did raise made allegations problems that weak evidence, but the issues are important, and I give the Trump credit for raising concern, very contentious structural issues, rights, technology transfer, and cybersecurity. I think important structural that need negotiated between and my favorite the structural agenda is the lateral as agreed with the European Union. Both have to investment treaties access to each other that is governed by enforceable rules of to it's a serve as a participation multilateral trade agreements signed RCEP agreement that includes China, possibly even a of known as CPT. And just an example of the access apps of thing in one market or the other, eliminate any without joint venture between one partner to another. A contentious issue over could on a signing a bilateral at the end of the Obama and make whatsoever on this, and I think the administration to research on a in the U.S. economy, economic growth, stable and secure access, such as that provided by the United States. Shame on us to take advantage that enables to mark offers just that opportunity. Approach than that which has been evident over years. It moves away to approach on the structural. Important for us to fully look ahead. There's no to the began to a commitment to conflict escalation, leadership of distrust to a client trusting a compromise both partners compromise require them to concessions to the United or surrender. The most difficult thing to get across at the leadership level, especially nearly 4 years, increasingly intense conflict. There's a lot of both China and a three conflict of despair. Much
to improve China and stability can be between the world's two big and strategy university about him.
We are at the new starting point of China-US relations. 4 or maybe was the relations. We have undergone the war, and we have in China and in the United States. We are at the new starting. Has a new swore in administration, bring a new China And also another good news is vaccine made progress China, US, and to take the vaccine. So the tunnel in the Trump administration national security and declared China as the Trump administration announced the China-US relations. I think the most important stop and we redefine relations. What we have, what is the nature of relations between the two most important countries, I mean China and the United States? Are we really competitor? Are we all rival? I think very carefully. I think current China-US from the during the Cold War, we don't have a global geopolitical competition between China. China is mainly a regional. We don't have any aspiration. Is the and the U.S. competition in this bilateral relationship. We can operate a lot. We are integrated so deeply. These two countries rely on each other very deeply, and we over regional issues like Korean nuclear issues, cooperate on issues like macroeconomic stability, like climate change, like cyberspace. They are both elements of competition and elements of cooperation. So I think this is very different. Soviet Union. So I think rethink the bilateral, define the bilateral leaders. I think we have to together cooperate. So we have to set up, to build a base of the bilateral relations to support China-US relations with those fall into a trajectory of the. I think there are sets of think about. The first, the senior dialogues between the two sides. But I think here the one, it need to be sustainable. We need a sustainable dialogue. I mean, whether you like it or not, we need those dialogues. We again faces some. The dialogue need to be continued. The second one is in the military and security area. We need more crisis management measures and also confidence. And the two major powers step into military conflicts. Obama administration to MOUs, confidence building measures. I think in the future, more this kind of and MOU, for example, in the cyberspace and in about nuclear strategic, and of course also including relations over second, the issues, those in the past the task here between China and the US of equilibrium regarding to our economic action. On the other hand, of the economic interaction, but we need to make each side, both sides, feel satisfying. They are gaining some mechanism of the and the social relations. Again, here we need is the interaction, cooperation, the sense of security in the economic side. Is the sense of so leadership dialogues. Second one, conflict and crisis management measures, and is the economic equilibrium, is the educational equilibrium. So those four pillars that long-term stability in next 4 years, and take this if we can make those 4 areas stability, which can support the longer term, in next 10 years, achieve all those goals. I think we need to act quickly to grasp this opportunity, that the two countries very fast. We need to take actions month, then month, and 1 year. The window of opportunity will not. This is what the first move quickly, and the second thing, to stop finger pointing to both in China and the blaming the other side. Basically, the of 3 or 4 years, and I think it's not try to find out who was the wrongdoer. Can give both the U.S. a better future.
Detailing how redefine mechanisms can create a more Our next guest expect from the new generation in terms of policy. To continue, expect to change. Stan is President and CEO of Bush Foundation, and now through a short video.
The opportunity to be a Vision China event. I'm grateful to the China Daily part, group of very distinct speakers, and spend my time speaking about perspective as United States will be content U.S. policy change. And I think there will be elements of the Biden administration in earnest. I think many things in change with the new administration, change of a person in a particular roles, it's going to represent the change the United States deals with the world. And I think we will see a lot play out in the way after a 4-year period, a very dramatic. Now, that being said, in the Biden to the policies that we've seen in the Trump administration, briefly, but potential departures from Trump administration. First and foremost, continuity or element of the Biden administration. The old things perspective is not going to be returned to. It's now a pretty well what administration policy. The notion things were working, I think, is an the political elite of the United States. I think one element of contradiction to the Trump administration well or perfectly before, and we have that we fundamentally think about the first element. This is, I think, the idea of reciprocity. If one were to recognize the basic over the last 4 years, the idea that glaring asymmetry or in the United States and China, the lack of China and to the disadvantage when it comes to the issue of trade and investment and the U.S.-China of seeking beneficial relationship is one that is remain an important administration. The third area of continuity, and I think will continue to be in the U.S. mind, and that is the competitor to the America. I think it's fair to say that his allies in Congress viewed China challenger competitor to the are certainly the enemy of the United States. But, fundamentally, critically important states will remain. And finally, one thing that we have seen over the last is that the legislative framework that has relative to China over the last several years, these are changes. They will not be undone. But I think broadly, framework to changes that have been that would be very difficult for the Biden. With that being said, that the Biden from policy and practice in significant ways as well. I want to highlight, first of all, I think a good number of the administration, Congress, who have in fact viewed China as the enemy. And Joe Biden and the senior-most people in the administration do not see States of America. Difficult departure. Administration. I think that that is very mean. Enemies are countries that in the with competitors the idea that China is a formidable competitor states as we get into the divergent. The second, unlike administration's bottom line, the choices that it makes is going to be and I think the metric Biden administration does. Now that the administration, the Trump administration, and on the really looked at the prism of U.S. interests. If that sounds the one example that is the Trump's tariffs. Here was administration rolled out by the president that you could possibly, and in fact generated a China than we have ever had. Administration is higher than it has history, higher, and it's did exactly what it purported to do. Trying U.S. interests change. The point that I would make mentioned important theme of China all and probably the way that we construe reciprocity, the way that we act upon or the construct of reciprocity. I think the Trump administration, then we should do it. Actually good for America. And the point that I would administration, the Trump administration, toward even America, as it did in many tariffs again, but I think what we're going to demonstration is as smart reciprocity. That is to say, yes, let's aspire toward reciprocity. Practices been critical of and engages in that if see as a more selective or a smarter administration. The last two areas I would just briefly mention, we'll see and already known in how the President of the United States communicates, how the administration communicate. We're poorly thought public comment, mercurial way from one or even from 1 hour to the next. Consistency, stability, conventional vocabulary, looks and sounds like a style of communication. Style of communication. That will clearly be a change and move the relationship. And finally, that I think is going to be different is with China. And I think that will business-like reliable style of engagement. Our Chinese interlocutors and counterparts will know that if he's not going to change ways, we're going to see departure philosophically in the way that the Biden approaches China. Making a few points of the Biden campaign was build back over the last several years. Relationship has been the actions and choices we have in front of us is the U.S. important. It is all it was never for improvement on both where we can take stock together, the United States and China relationship. An important element of our friends in China to understand will really improve in, for example, to U.S. goods has historically been just one area of the of this sense of AIDS. It is no longer the old way. And I think that if we can see serious and sincere of generating a more beneficial relationship over time, we will see a seen yet, or will see a Joe Biden has replaced. I don't think we're going to see dramatic changes quickly. That significant incremental changes, I believe that that is the direction that for the sharp deterioration in the U.S. that we have seen both countries can and should, and I think will over time, this vital say is that, as stated from an American, number one, formidable competitor in the lifetimes of the American alive today. In that lifetime of that formidable competitor to the United States that we will ever see, China is an in and of both statements, can we vitally important relationship, important and consequential by ourselves and our posterity? That is very much what I hope we will see. Vision China Daily, all of the thank you very much.
Affirming the importance and that the decisions can get back on consequences that US and the world. Is a senior fellow at the Renmin University of China. Economic and business policy. Watch a short video about him.
Invitation for me to speak. Understands the circumstance. And we should say is that the inauguration, the opportunity to reset China-US relations, negative period, which was, I'll go into. This was damaging, and it was damaging for other. Turn a leaf from, because this is such an is going to affect China. Three of these is for the United States. China's foreign New York-based Asia Society. President Biden at that time and four key were first dealing with the COVID-19, second dealing with economic recovery, and fourth, foreign minister with China can significantly out of these four tasks. China's own foreign policy, it is for the United States and the world. Win-win cooperation. Let's look at the way in which administration damaged the 75,300 had been lost due to the prices for input. Companies which are employed imports as a result of competitive, they can't hire. The effect of this was not to create jobs, a large number of jobs for American workers. The system just means that the mobile phones are delivered later than it would. Fortunately, some other were blocked by the US. By the US courts. Policies of the Trump China cut them out of the market. Very negative. Look at in a later, a bit later. Very direct and measurable or indirect damages. Type of prevented in a successful fight. This was not for in the fight against COVID, but they were learning lessons of attacks, extraordinary, prevented America great indirect damage to the American people. I mean, the American people have suffered during this pandemic compared to demagogy we made. Secretary of State Pompeo. Very dangerous. It's very responsible stuff. Most accurate view possible, not of misleading. You also mislead yourself. We can say that that's taken by the Biden administration of the Paris climate in the world much more serious attitude in the COVID-19 pandemic. Say there are some statements which quote, for example, the nominee of State Blinken hearing said, "Let me just say a tougher approach to China. I disagree very much, but the basic principle was our foreign policy." That statement is not helpful. So there's a contradiction. Will be worked out better in line with administration and not in regard to my Secretary of Blinken. Okay, this is the consequence. Obvious now. Even papers admitted trade war. States. I mean, 2 days ago, I but it ahead while the rest of the world give great pleasure to say performed outstandingly compared to other economies, but never to slow down. Which one would have hoped had the fourth quarter of 2020, latest available data. If you take the, which is the latest figure available, GDP, then the economy has far outperformed the United States. Unfortunately, the latest ones they've made are that the world economy in 2020, this is much crisis, because in the international financial crisis, 1%. So unfortunately, crisis. The result in 2020, the motor of world economy, quite extraordinary. Projections are that in 20 and 63 than on the rest of the planet. And you could look at the comparison of the United States, which is 9%, reflects the very, very short term, the period up till 2025 for world economic growth. Okay. From 2019 to 24 to world growth, India combined countries, China will contribute, largest countries put together. Obviously, what every country, and also, of course, is seeking to benefit. Win-win outcome. China would in trade and investment with other countries. Very rapid growth of China. This is China is coming lost from the pandemic. This year is low by Chinese standards. Other countries, the more it's much to be hoped that adopt a win-win policy, to use the Chinese phrase. Finally, let's look at these relations between China. A few small, for example, let's mention Brazil. Unfortunately, there was a lot of not a policy to deal with coronavirus. A lot of demagoguery. The vaccine by Zhang, and after a lot of time has been waiting. Vaccines which have authorities which are independent of the government for use in Brazil. Vaccine from and the AstraZeneca actually extraordinarily turned and inputs into the in China. So that Brazil is a China vaccine off of the supply we hadn't had all these rows, and this situation. An example, India. Example, banning TikTok. The effect of that, obviously, it's for Indian companies have been created in order to supply of people who are using TikTok. Media operation in China. The damage was done by this. My own country, Britain, participate in 5G. Then that was pay more for 5G, and it's going to be. But there's an even more general one. An extraordinary of world growth is going to the next 5 years. To the world economy is going to developing countries, but it's not the only one. Growth, if you take it in, the IMF likes to calculate by about 12.4 trillion. The growth of the advanced developing countries will be about. This means that developing fast as the advanced economy. The developing economy to be about with the advanced countries. That is, will be grow more than twice as fast as the advanced. Happening in that situation is, of course, is that you should move into happening in Asia. It's very has now replaced instead a cold take countries trade away from the world economy, which is in China, ones inside the United States, to the American people. Finally, what is very clear, Cold War path. Very important recent percent of the world's population. The 80 to 190 should be the projects. The investment treaty that the Biden European Union is which signed it. Australia and Japan. So damaging. Allies will not go along. Therefore, just to there is a chance what Biden's done. Some signs all along with what is want to return to a situation very much to be hoped from the point of the United States, point of view of other countries, your time in listening to me. Thank you.
Detailing how the U.S. with the positions it has taken on the global stage. Well, that's all for today's guests who have working together in the same direction, coexistence.